Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Cross Talk. Well, Peter, yesterday was the second round of, should we say, results of the New York City Democratic Party primary for selection for their candidate for mayor. In other words, whoever wins the primary will almost certainly be the next mayor of New York City because it's a one-party town. Now, what was startling was that last week we had a winner, clearly, somebody who had apparently won decisively, Eric Adams, who seemed to be a kind of a law and order guy, have a working class coalition, and he had done very well. Now, the New York City is a very complicated process in which you don't just have a first past the post system, but it goes through a business of gradual elimination. So the last person is eliminated, and then given that people have made a choice of who their first, second, third, fourth, fifth is, that the person's whoever was eliminated, the person's other choices are assigned to other candidates. Very complicated, but anyway.
I don't understand it, okay? I'll be honest with everyone.
Exactly. But in any case, so Adams seemed very firmly in the driver's seat last Tuesday. And now, suddenly after yesterday's result, there seem to be only 16,000 votes separating Adams from the number two, who had actually been a distant third the week before, Catherine Garcia. And then, when they first announced that now it's only 16,000 votes separating, they said that, whoops, we counted 135,000 votes wrong. So cancel that, forget what we just said. We'll give you some updated results tomorrow. And in the meantime, there's some 120,000 absentee votes that need to be counted. Now, a couple of thoughts that occur. One is, how the hell do people go on repeating mantra about the November 2020 election, the fairest, cleanest, least corrupt election that has ever been held in American history, when we get this kind of nonsense in the very next election that we have? And second of all, we have to sort of think about really, why is it that the United States is unable to do what just about every other country is able to do: have elections, have a quick, efficient way of counting the votes and deliver the results in a speedy, efficient, effective manner within a few hours of the polls closing. Everyone else manages to do it. United States, we have these nonsensical elections that go on forever, the counting that goes on forever, and results that are just overturned magically after weeks and weeks of counting. It just seems baffling that the United States can't or doesn't want to enact proper elections. What was your take, Peter?
What happened? What happened to a paper ballot, a marker, an ID,
right,
and a booth where you could,
And that's kind of how I remember voting, when I first started voting. Yeah, the paper.
An amazing invention,
You put a cross, you slip the piece of paper into a into a ballot box, and you go. I mean, it wasn't complicated.
Because it start at 7, even 6 in the morning,
right.
And voting until 8 or 9 in the evening. Okay, that most employers. Mm-hmm. Would say, yeah, take an extra half an hour. You need to vote, go ahead. Right. But that's what most people would allow. Okay, I don't get any of this. How is it the electoral process gets worse and worse and worse? Okay, the 2020 Iowa caucus. What the hell happened there, George?
Exactly. After all, remember all the breathless anticipation. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? And then it turns out into a farce. We still have no idea who won that.
Except for Pete Buttigieg robotically said, I won.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we have this all the time, and then and remember, there's a long tradition of this. Remember in Minnesota, the one that Al Franken quote won unquote, where again he seemed to be a long way behind, and then they go on counting and counting and counting and counting and counting, and oh, the winner. I mean, this is a farce. This is exactly what happens in these terrible third world countries that Secretary of State Antony Blinken is warning us about. Somehow you get your result that you desire. You just keep counting until you get there.
Yeah, I mean, well, what is it? Why? I mean, this is what there's a trend. Again, it's the professional managerial class. They have all of these McKinsey ideas of how to run things. They don't know how a paperclip works anymore. Right. Okay, right. They couldn't fix a staple if their life depended on it. Okay, right. I don't understand why everything has to be over complicated when you make it very clear on a Tuesday from 6 to 9 p.m. Bring your ID and you can vote. And okay, and there's no partisans. They're on the sidelines. There's a camera on the ballot box. I mean, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, that would have been an investment. Today, you can just take your iPhone and put it on top of it. Okay, live stream it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the story that they said is about this 135,000 votes that weren't supposed to be counted. You think, how the hell did that come about? 135,000 votes. I mean, they weren't supposed to count. Well, we counted them. So forget what we just said. We're gonna give you updated results. Is there somehow anyone's
why 130,000? Okay, and they were tested. Why do you need a test vote?
Right.
Why 130,000? Why not 160, 200, a million?
I have no idea. And now, and they're going to have these absentee votes. So that's another one of these ridiculous things. Why are we going on with this nonsense of these absentee votes? I mean, we basically, we should, have this, not get away from all this nonsense of people not showing up to vote. I mean, you show up. I mean, you show up to other things. People go shopping. People, do all their errands. They go to work. I mean, the whole nonsense. Oh, well, we can't possibly go and vote because COVID, and therefore it has to be mailed in. Absolute nonsense. I mean, it comes around every 4 years. You do it. I mean, so
you go to Walmart and you do your shopping, okay, and you have lunch there, and then but because of COVID, you can't walk on the street and enter a public space that's a gymnasium that can be sanitized down, okay. Now, all of this is really and voting is not obligatory, folks, okay. It's not. It's a completely voluntary thing to do. And again, when we have these absentee votes, I mean, what is the chain of custody? I am talking about someone that grew up with the democratic process, and custody is the be all and end all of elections, and it's being frequently disregarded.
Of course it is. So that's the point. I mean, everybody was known for years and years that mail-in voting is very, very insecure. And everyone always said this. And then suddenly in 2020, when people felt that this mail-in vote would work to the advantage of the Democrats and against the incumbent Donald Trump, said, oh, very, very safe. Even though he said, well, how is it safe? People just sort of drop off their vote anywhere. You have a ballot boxes anywhere. This signature check is almost impossible because the whole thing was just overwhelmed. I mean, there was so much mail-in voting that there were just the facilities weren't there to check all the signatures. And it was obvious that this would happen. And then you had the media, oh, absolutely, clean as a whistle, no problems here whatsoever. Trump is lying. He's a lying liar who's lying. And that was it. That became the media line.
And this is what they're accusing Adams of.
Right.
Repeating the big lie.
Right.
I mean, if I were Adams, and I'm certainly not a member of the Democratic Party, and I'm not part of some kind of progressive wing of the Democratic Party, but if I were Adams, I'd say, what is it? You're going to keep counting absentee votes until the other guy wins? That's a legitimate question.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think Adams is right now, I mean, if he has any sense, is getting his legal team ready to go straight to court and to challenge this. I mean, he's a bloody fool if he's not, because this is so absurd. I mean, even this system, which is complicated about, oh, you transfer votes to another, it should be done. It isn't rocket science. I mean, other countries also practice proportional representation, which is a kind of variant on that. You transfer your vote to your second choice and whatever. Again, they do it. I mean, all these European countries who do practice proportional representation, they manage to have elections that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and they don't just go on forever.
What was it in 2020? I think it was in November also. I think, was it Venezuela or Brazil or Argentina? One of those countries, they had an election virtually on the same day, and they had a winner by midnight.
Right. Yeah. 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 And then they say, whoa, this won't be decided till middle of July. Middle of July? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you cannot have elections that just go on forever, because it's just ripe for corruption, and clearly it's just get these manipulated results. I mean, this is an absurdity, and it's precisely that what you get when you have these elections that stretch out forever is that people figure out, how many votes do I need to find in order to ensure that my guy gets more votes than the other guy. I mean, that's the whole point,
And how many Xerox?
Figured out, okay, so Trump is ahead by 750,000 votes. Okay, so we need 750,000 plus one votes. Okay, let's go find them.
Yeah, and and your competitor, you have to wonder how many Xerox machines he has.
Yes, okay. Exactly.
How many Xerox machines does he have in reserve?
Right, that's it. Yeah, and then we have the footage that we had in Georgia of the they first kick out all the observers, and then
stop counting.
Yeah, that's not counting.
They keep counting.
Yeah, not counting. Wrong suitcases, and then get them through the machine. No one around, no observers around, they just put them through the machine. Oh, nothing to see here, folks. Everything's ship shape.
We always keep ballots in suitcases.
Chain of custody.
They're so safe there. That's what they call custody. Exactly. Somebody's suitcase.
Yes. Everything's in ship shape. Don't worry about anything.
But see, what they're doing to people is that, again, you can blame Trump all you want. It's so tiresome. It's so boring. But this is just institutional rot. Okay, this is exactly what it is, because democracy used to mean something. Now it's just it's a means to power. Right. Well, it wasn't. It was a means to representation at one time.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Now, what I'm not entirely sure of, but I'm sure we will find out at some point, is why Adams seems to be out of favor with the political establishment, because there's obviously a plot in place to ensure that he doesn't win.
Well, he went Trump, quote unquote, as they say. I mean, crime is out of control. I don't care what the AOCs and all of that talk. It's so disingenuous. I mean, people are tired of the violence. And this Adams guy, he came out and pulled a Trump and said, we're going to get tough on crime. As politically incorrect as that is, it's all institutional racism, all this other, oh God, it's maddening. It's maddening when if your mother gets knocked down and have her purse stolen, okay, or you're kicked in the metro, okay, that's not academic, and it's not, identity politics nonsense anymore. It's real, okay? And then this Adams guy comes out and just says, we got to get tough, okay? That is a message easily picked up on, okay? Right. Then one of the other candidates, she dropped out. She basically couldn't answer the question during a debate. Should the police be disarmed? Right. Disarmed.
Yes. Yeah.
And she couldn't answer it because she wants them to be disarmed.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But it's interesting because, of course, Adams is himself African American. He's a Manhattan Borough president, and so therefore he is a part of the political establishment. I mean, he's no outsider. But nonetheless, I mean, obviously there are powerful forces within the Democratic Party that don't want him to win, because that thing, once they get announced yesterday about he's only 16,000 votes ahead, it meant he is not going to come out first.
I don't think so. No, because who knows the machinations behind all of this? Again, the very fact that we have to try to figure out what kind of machinations by whom tells you that it's this institutional rot. How in the world is it even possible? It's not supposed to be that way.
Right. Yeah. No,
I mean, and the thing is we want to make clear to everyone here, election fraud has a very long, tainted story in American politics. I mean, decades after, Lyndon Johnson's handlers told them how they got this election and that election, and then what happened in the Illinois in 1960 against Richard Nixon. I mean, it's all out there here. But don't say that we have the most pristine electoral integrity in the world. Okay, I mean, in Chicago, you knew Daley was going to deliver. Everybody knew it. Okay, that's the way it worked. All right, but don't go out and say it's pristine and it is immaculate and all that when it just continues to don't believe your lying eyes. It continues to deteriorate. That's my big gripe.
What made those elections so bad was that you get into the situation whereby Johnson and Daley, they knew how many votes they needed to find. I mean, and that's exactly what you need to avoid in any election, which is it comes through fair counting, so that you don't just sort of say, oh, we've counted them. Okay, so now I'm 25,000 votes behind. I've got to rustle up 25,000 votes. Let's go to the graveyard and dig up 25,000 votes. I mean, that's it. That's what you have to do. But the reforms that are now being presented, particularly in the Democrats who want it, is the exact opposite. They're trying to make it that much easier to cheat. Right. So all of the things like the Carter-Baker Commission from about 20 years ago, they were recommending move away from mail-in ballots, move away from absentee voting, because those practices are rife with fraud. No, we want to do this. This is our method. So they're going exactly the wrong direction. Back in the direction of where corruption and stealing elections is very easy.
And just to be clear to everyone here, if you look at the last two election cycles, 2016 and 2020, African Americans and Hispanic Americans have come out in larger numbers than ever before. So don't start talking about voter suppression, okay? Votes are being suppressed and manipulated, but I don't think there's a case to be made it's against particular groups at all, particularly when the percentage growth is higher than white males, for example. You can't stand on any ground right there. What George just said is true, is that you have institutionalized corruption. What Johnson and Daley did was out of bounds corruption. What they want to do now is to institutionalize it within the system. That's where we are right now.
And that was a problem. That's always been the problem with stealing elections, that stealing elections is actually very easy to do and hard to prove. I mean, that was, everybody knew that election in 1960 was stolen, but it was very hard to prove. And so people just have to shrug their shoulders and say, well, all right, well, that's the way elections work. But you want to put a system in place whereby you can't cheat, and that if you do cheat, then you'll be able to prove it. You would have the receipt so that you can actually show, now this was stolen. These people are dead. They cannot possibly be voting because they've been dead for 30 years. That's what you want to move towards. So you can, if there is stealing, then you can prove that it was stolen.
Yes, and I have spoken to individuals that told me that they requested a ballot for the November election. It never came. But multiple ones arrived for how to put it. The same building that she was living in, those people got multiple copies, not one, multiple copies of ballots, and they didn't request it. She did request it and never got one.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, that was it. This mass mail out of ballots was a joke. And of course, it just overwhelmed the people who were supposed to be checking on the signatures and so on. So there was no verification. I mean, that's why you had this ridiculous thing of how many ballots were rejected. 0.007%. Well, how many are usually rejected? Well, about 10%. So that's a measure of what happened. Well,
So
anyway,
I mean, good luck, Mr. Adams. I mean, you know, you're a liberal Democrat. Good luck to you. But it seems to me that there's been a shot. There's a shot is across your bow already, and it doesn't bode well for you. Okay, because it looks like the die is has been set here. So we'll see. We're going to follow it. I mean, it's not about Mr. Adams. It's about integrity, and that's what they keep telling us that we have. And I don't believe it. I don't anymore.
That's right. All right, Peter. And where can we be found?
We can be found at Locals, and our address is thegaggle.locals.com. We have a tip jar. The humidity is really quite high here, so I'm going to let Buddy sleep. He's at my feet right now. I'm not going to pick him up because everyone says he's playing dead all the time when I bother him. Okay, and we have a tip jar there. We officially it's Buddy's tip jar, but George dips into the.
I take my dibs, to say the least. Yes. And we're also on Rumble. Look us up there. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.